Welcome to the Make Work Work Better podcast, where we delve deep into the minds and experiences of some of the most inspiring leaders in business today. I'm your host, Dr. Marc Reynolds, and today we're doing the post-interview episode after interviewing Lauren Crampsey. We're actually going to do 3 of these because there's 3 really great topics that we want to talk about in more detail. So you have practical tips for how to take what was talked about in that interview and really put it into practice. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about how your ego is not your amigo. I loved when she shared that. Next time, we'll be talking a little bit more about sitting in silence. But for today, your ego is not your amigo, and how to navigate relationships and work without self-centeredness. This might seem obvious. It might seem maybe for some people simple, but for myself, it's not easy. Ego is one of those really sneaky things that likes to work its way into everything. First, let's talk a little bit about how understanding and managing ego is crucial both in your personal relationships and in the workplace for several reasons. First is improved communication. Think about it. If you're talking to someone and their ego is clearly in the way, or they're super focused on their own achievements or how smart they are, how much do you really want to engage in that conversation? I can't count how many times I've watched conversations going back and forth, or basically people were just talking about their experiences and successes and name dropping. And it's not really a great way to build trust. It's a great way to create competitiveness of comparison and not really any progress. By being more aware of your ego, how it manifests itself, how it likes to creep in, you're going to find strategies, and we're going to talk about some later, that help you get past that, or help you just be aware of when it's creeping in so that you can communicate more effectively. It also helps with healthier relationships. As the title of this suggests, the kind of ego we're talking about, and there's been different definitions of ego throughout time if we're going back to Freudian theory and moving forward. But the type we're talking about really comes down to a more simple word, and that is self-centeredness. Managing ego allows individuals to prioritize empathy, understanding, and compromise, which are essential for maintaining healthy and fulfilling relationships, both personally and professionally. So really important. Helps with conflict resolution. By managing ego, individuals can approach conflicts with an open mind, willingness to listen, and focus on finding solutions rather than trying to win the argument. It makes for more effective leaders. Leaders who understand and manage their egos are more likely to inspire trust, motivate their teams, and make decisions that benefit the entire organization rather than serving their own interests. Then finally is personal growth. By recognizing and addressing ego-driven behaviors and attitudes, individuals can become more resilient, adaptable, and successful in various aspects of their life. Sounds great, right? So let's dive into this. First, we're going to talk about how can I recognize ego in myself. Second, we're going to talk about how do I balance self-confidence and humility in a professional setting. Then we're going to finish off with talking about some practical strategies for checking your ego, for managing that ego as it tries to creep in. So first, let's talk a little bit about how we can recognize ego in ourselves. One of the best things is to find your trusted people. Talk to them, see what's triggering them, what's making them distance from you, what's causing them to react in a negative way or pull away. If you'll pay attention to those people, you're going to start seeing the places where ego probably is trying to creep in. Some specific things that you might watch for are defensiveness. If you're feeling yourself getting defensive and trying to defend why you're important, why you're valued, why you're right, why they're wrong, that defensiveness is a really good indicator that there's ego that's gotten wrapped into this. If there's no ego, we listen, we pay attention, we take on what someone's saying, consider it. If it's true or right, then we move on that. If we know from our own mind and experience that it's not, we can still listen and validate that other person's experience and make our next decision of what we're going to do according to that. Inflexibility is another sign that ego is in the way. Being resistant to change, new ideas, feedback, all causes huge problems. If you're not flexible, then how are you supposed to grow? How are you supposed to develop? How are you supposed to stretch? change. Now, obviously, there's a balance here, right? We need to also draw boundaries, and we need to make sure that we're being true and fair to ourselves as well. If you're comparing, you're competing, you're seeking validation and engaging in competitive behaviors to prove your superiority or to gain recognition, ego's in the way. Check it at the door. If you're seeking approval, external validation, or praise to boost self-esteem or self-worth, if you're looking for that raise or that promotion or that new job because that's going to tell you that you're worthy, you're a good person. Instead, what's going to help you most is saying, who's the type of person that I value, that I appreciate, that I love, that I'm connected with, and how do I become that person? If I'm becoming that, I'm going to value that. If you're blaming others, making excuses, being overly critical of others to protect one's self-image or avoid taking responsibility, ego. Now, does that mean we can't hold people accountable? Of course we can hold people accountable. The best way to do that is to stick with the facts. Here's what I'm seeing. Here's what I'm hearing. Here's what I'm noticing. It makes me think this. It makes me feel this. Tell me your side of the story and sit back and listen. If you have this strong desire for control, power, dominance in relationship or situation, sign of ego. A powerful leader is one that can empower their people to do their best job. Just thinking practically, if you have to be in control all the time, there's only so many places you can be. But if you can empower all your people to do their best work, even if it might be slightly different than how you do it, the diversity in thought, approaches, opinions is going to only make your product stronger. Judgment and arrogance, making harsh judgments about others, feeling superior, displaying arrogance or entitlement, inability to listen. If you can't just sit there and listen to others, actively listen, not just passively while you're thinking about what you need to get at the grocery store. But if you're actively listening to others, or if you're being dismissive of different perspectives, or you're always wanting to be the one talking, or you keep interrupting other people, look for ego. If you have a constant need for attention, or you have a fear of failure, rejection, check the ego. And you're like, okay, well, I think there's not a human on earth, maybe there is, that hasn't experienced this at one time or another and doesn't probably face some of these things on a daily basis. So what am I supposed to do about that? Stay tuned. Before we do, I want to answer the question, how do I balance self-confidence with humility in professional settings? And there's some really easy things that you can do. First, this question is interesting to me because the implication here is that self-confidence and humility are opposites. That self-confidence means that we are prideful, that we're arrogant. And that's not true. We can be self-confident and humble at the same time. Humility comes down to placing other people first, about valuing other people as much or more than you value yourself. Here's some strategies to help you develop this balance. First, acknowledge your strengths and limitations. You can do that by journaling and writing things down. You can do that out loud. You can find a coach or someone else to help you really find those. Some people really struggle with finding what their strengths are, or with clearly identifying their limitations without becoming the victim or feeling like someone else is doing this to me, or taking on too much responsibility. So if you can go about that and acknowledge the areas where you can improve or learn, or not downplay your accomplishments and what you have to bring to the table, that's number one. Number two, practice active listening. Now, anecdote. Two of my boys are about to go to a dance, and self-disclosure, dance has always made me feel uncomfortable. I was always dealt with that by being the one in charge, the one of running a dance, making sure it's all organized, put together, doing things behind the scenes, so I didn't actually have to engage in the dance itself. So I was sensitive to the fact that maybe my boys are uncomfortable going to this, or how do I make this the best experience possible for them? And what I told them was, instead of worrying about what other people think about you, or if you're having a good time, or if you're uncomfortable, look for the person that you can make their time at the dance better. As soon as we do that, it becomes a lot more fun for ourselves. So join the dance, practice active listening, practice making and helping someone else's day, career, or skill set better. Seek feedback. There's nothing more humbling than getting really genuine feedback. It is actually really hard. That's why executive coaches are really valuable. That's why anonymous surveys are valuable. That's why having employees throughout a company that you know are going to be honest and straightforward with you and not just tell you what you want to hear are really important as well. Give credit where it's due, which goes also with practicing gratitude. Show empathy. Put yourself in others' shoes and consider their feelings, perspectives, and challenges. If you can't do this, it probably means you just need more detail. You need to sit and ask. Have you sat down and asked, how's the rest of your life going? If you had to rate the quality of your life outside of work, how would you rate it from 0 to 10? You'd rate it a 4. Tell me why. Start finding ways to be grateful and to recognize the success of others and to point out and lift those around you and shine a happy light on the people around you. Set realistic goals. Be approachable. Lead by example. Continuously learn and grow. Dealing with ego isn't so much about being like, oh, I'm bad and I have a lot of ego, I need to get rid of that. It's about shifting your priorities and making sure that in your mind, in your heart, in your behavior, that there are more important things. Truth, helping those around you, loving those around you, lifting the team, contributing, building the world to become a better place. Down below, I'm going to list some resources, some books, some articles and online resources, some workshops and courses that you can take if this is something that interests you and you want to learn more and dig into this. Look down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say, what you've learned, what you think about the interview and about what we're talking about today, about checking that ego and how your ego is not your amigo. I'd love to hear your feedback. Please don't hesitate to comment down below. Please try to keep it respectful of the other people on here. Don't forget to like and subscribe and follow us for our future episodes. Tell us what you want to hear, what you want to talk about. We'd love to hear what you have to say. Finally, there are things that you can do to keep ego in check, to keep minimizing it and getting rid of it, pulling it out of the workplace so it doesn't get in your way. It's one of the biggest stumbling blocks to effective teamwork and to your own personal relationships in the workplace and outside of the workplace. Join us next time when we talk about sitting in silence. Look forward to seeing you then.